I'm Mel Stewart, and this is the SwimSwam podcast. Joining me today is a very, very special guest, a man who is going to help us cover a topic that I am deeply, deeply vulnerable when it comes to. And this is the person I lean into for all of my basic understanding and deep knowledge on this topic. We're talking about Dryland training, and today we have the founder and CEO of Ritter Sports Performance, Chris Ritter.
Well, it is ironic that that's how you start this, because the room that I developed a lot of these principles in working with swimmers has your name on it, the Mel Stewart Strength Room at Latin. So I think that's really funny.
We should say this. We do have a lot of we have our soul is in the soil there in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a lot of great things came from that area, and I'm not surprised. But I started this out, and I've been asking you to come on because this is when you're insecure about a topic, and you need to lean into that topic, and I'll give you some context on it. I'm old. Yes, I have 3 Olympic medals, 2 gold medals, but in swimming, over the years, swimming has changed so dramatically by several factors. But when it comes to Dryland, I would say that it's a multiple beyond that. And so what I was doing in my day is nothing compared to what's happening now. So I lean on Chris. We need experts, especially at SwimSwam, so to understand this. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for doing this. Much appreciated.
Yeah, and at this point in time, I think it's even more critical than not. I know a lot of teams are back in the water, but if you're not, I mean, what else are you going to be doing at this point to get better?
When the pandemic hit and our world started, it felt like it was closing, and it really felt like a dark hour.
Yeah.
I was calling people, talking to people, leaning into to all the people that really make up the swimming family. And when I got on the phone with you, my heart was in my stomach, and suddenly I felt excited because it was, you were like, you know what, this is an opportunity, and there's really 2 parts to this conversation. But that first conversation was about, hey, this is an opportunity in Dryland, and there's going to be some big gains. What was going through your mind in March?
Yeah, I almost thought now we're really going to see how well coaches are managing their Dryland and their knowledge of that, because everybody was out of the pool, right? At some point, pretty much 99.9% of swimmers are out. And we started a free webinar series weekly. I think it was the first week of April we did it. And I always had this first slide we started with, and it said, how are you going to view this time? As an opportunity, or are you just going to sit there and pout that you're not in the water? And now, Mel, I mean, we're 5+ months away from that point. And I look back on that, I could have taken almost anyone and gotten them to be able to do a pull-up, gotten their shoulder mobility so much better in the last 5 months. And you know, what they say about planting a tree, the best time was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. It's the same thing with Dryland. So whether you did a lot of things or not over the past 5 months, I think it's clear that we're seeing all these lifetime best times from a lot of swimmers in these, little meets they're going. And I have to say, a lot of it is from, I'm sure they were doing great Dryland when they're out of the water. You got to do something.
You're moving too fast, because we had several conversations, and we got to say this at SwimSwam. It was depressing, but at the same time we have like Olympic level traffic, World Championship level traffic, NC2A traffic, and then a baseline. That's just when people are coming to you all during the year, and it was World Championship level traffic, and I knew that it was because athletes were stuck at home with nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they were coming to us, and it was so it was just this weird thing where our audience was massive, but at the same time depressing. And then as teams started to return to some semblance of training, and we started seeing some time trials, some intramural meets, and personal best time, NAG records, I couldn't get my head around it, so I called you And I'm like, what's going on here? What's happening? What was your response to me?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, what did you think was going to happen? We're going to see. And the longer this comes of this dancing game of who has water time, who doesn't, I feel like it becomes more magnified if you have your stuff around Dryland and you're having your athletes doing what they can out of the water. And again, that could be as simple as some shoulder mobility exercises, just so your shoulder's moving better. So when you get into the water at full training, volume, whatever that is, you're good to go. Nothing has to hold you back.
For me, we need to, I know you well, buddy, but I want the audience to understand who you are. Ritter Sports Performance is rittersportssp.com. And it is a deep well, a big tent pole of media and opportunity for coaches. And I feel like a lot of swimmers coaches, I feel like a lot of folks probably feel the way I do. They have they feel great about their knowledge. But Dryland is a place where they can always improve, and it's always evolving. You go to rittersp.com, and it houses the Hive, it houses swim coaches based podcast, and it also houses really the most interesting thing of all to me is the Surge Strength and Dryland certification, because it's step by step. It gives you everything you need, and and also your branding's pretty awesome.
Especially on the news site.
No, that guy. We're going to get into this, and I apologize for taking a tangent, but Chris runs a great business, and I respect that, and I cannot say that about people in swim. There are a lot of businesses in swimming, and they're just not. They're not sophisticated. They're not growing. They're not evolving. And they sort of lean into a similar mode that becomes calcified, and that is not the case with you. You are always evolving, always getting better. And I just I was doing a little bit of research because I'm like, I've never been to the LinkedIn page. I went to your LinkedIn page. You have 25,000 plus followers, and I suddenly felt very insecure. I only got 7,000, and everybody's asking me, hey, can we connect? Can we follow? It happens all the time. So you come to the market with a well-established name, but for coaches out there who don't know you or aren't familiar with your platform, how do they dive in and take the first step?
Yeah, I guess I want to start back at where we started, and we're almost going on a decade now with Ritter. It started in 2011. That's crazy to think about. So I guess we're doing something right if we're still around and evolving with the times, and pandemics or not. But I started, honestly, with Dryland training, and it was a bunch of master swimmers I got connected to that a lot of them were traveling, and they wanted to go beat their buddy as they get up onto the block. And I appreciate working with the master swimmers because they were so competitive about like those world records, national championships, bragging rights when they're going out with their buddies after. And we developed a system back, when apps were still a new thing, when the iPhone had just come out a few years prior to that. We figured out a way to do online training that worked. And it wasn't just some gimmick. It wasn't just generic workouts. And we did that for a number of years. And then I kind of stumbled on with swim coaches, their education and the source that they can get continuing education, I just felt was really lacking. And so we started the Swim Coaches Based podcast, and then that evolved into the Hive. And so now Swim Coaches, now with the mentorship that Paul Yetter's been hosting for over a year now, that was huge for a lot of coaches during the pandemic. They didn't know what to do. They had questions. Paul's meeting with them once a week on Zoom calls. They're all exchanging ideas, and that's with coaches all over the world that we're able to communicate. So when the pandemic hit, though, I'd had the idea for the newest thing we were doing, the Surge Strength Dryland certification, for a while. But honestly, I didn't want to do it, Mel. I'd had this idea for years. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And when I saw the shutdown happen and I saw the reaction to coaches and swimmers, and it just seemed like everybody's like this. What do we do now? Okay, so we're on Zoom calls. How can I get my kids better? And I didn't want to do a certification just so you could have some more initials behind your name or for you to, just pay us more money for something. I felt I want to create something that is going to give you step-by-step instructions and practical and simple about this is the thing you should be doing. This is the steps that you follow. Don't worry about this. Go down this track if you want to help swimmers specifically with their Dryland training.
In terms of the time that we have and everyone diving into education. It seems like a lot of people during this period of time, they're going through pandemic fatigue, where they're working 4 times as hard because they're trying to get back to some normalcy. But I do find that everybody has done at least one thing unique. They've focused in one area. They've tried to accomplish one thing. In swim, clearly it's been Dryland. And for coaches, I hope that they're seeing this trend. I hope that they're taking advantage of this trend, and you're spoon feeding them with this platform. I like the 101 courses. When you throw a 101 course in front of me, and I'm like, okay, I can handle this.
And that's the thing, though. That's the thing I think is so frustrating for so many coaches, right? Is they know swimming so well, and then if they go on YouTube, they're trying to search for some exercise. Now there's thousands of options, and it's just an overwhelming feeling of, okay, well, what do I do? And not saying even half those exercises are a bad idea, but knowing how to structure it and what to focus on. And so that's why every time we're developing stuff with the certification or the Dryland 101s, I always go back to how simple can we make this but still be effective? Because I think that's what a lot of coaches need when it comes to Dryland.
What I find is interesting is that you were resistant to doing this, but you knew that this was the moment, and you had to launch.
Yeah,
and it's sort of a rebrand, and I like that you're leaning into it. Actually, when you told me about it, I told you that I was jealous because I thought it was so smart and so timely right now. Mm-hmm. In terms of something that might surprise coaches, if they dive into the cosmos of Ritter, and they get into your website and they get into Surge Strength Dryland curriculum, what's something that would surprise them?
So, no, and this honestly, I'll say some of these things were even surprising to me because it wasn't just a copy paste of old webinars or old things that we did. I challenged myself to say, deep can I go and how expansive can I make this? So honestly, I even had a few light bulb ideas where things were connecting. And one of the arguments I always had heard, or just stances that coaches would take, is, all right, Dryland is just for the sprinters, right? The distance kids, they don't need that. They just need more volume. And whether you're high volume or not, that was always the case, right? As sprinters got more of Dryland. And as I was diving to, we have one module, it's Principles of Strength and Conditioning. So basically, I do my best to give you a Bachelor of Science of Education, exercise science, in a couple hours, and I boil it down. And as I was diving into it, when you do strength training, there are changes in the muscle fibers that, specifically the type 2X fibers, they change to type 2As. Now that probably means nothing to you at this point, but if you go into a textbook and you see what changes and adaptations happen when those fibers change from 2X to 2A because of strength training, more mitochondria in the muscle, improved aerobic capacity and endurance, and this is through strength training. So if this is the holy grail, right, of VO2 max aerobic for any sprint, right, even the 50, they need some of that. Almost the distance swimmers should be doing more strength training at this point then. And that was just a big light bulb moment of, here's something very practical now I can point to coaches that resist Dryland because they feel they're going to get more value out of swimming. And I'm not saying by any means, just give me a gym and I'll give you an Olympic swimmer. Like, you have to do it in the pool. But this just makes sense. Doing strength training improves your aerobic capacity, improves mitochondria density in the muscle fibers, and your overall endurance. Who doesn't want that?
Everybody wants it. We just did a podcast with Caleb Dressel, and what was interesting was how much of a nerd he is. This guy, and it's we did the podcast with him, and then he was so detailed. We ended the podcast, and it almost made me bitter because he walked over to his desk and he pulls out the tablet after tablet after tablet of just notes that he had made. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing: we see coaches, we see athletes, and when they perform, they dive into the details. They live in that space. But I think it's fair to say that when it comes to Dryland, people they're not present. They're sort of doing a routine. They're doing something that is, they know it's making them stronger. And we've been doing this for decades, but it's, let's just say the science isn't there. And we have it in swim, but it's not in this area.
Well, I think even too, with the swimming mindset, if they take the swimming mindset of what good training looks like in the water. And let's be honest, right? Their band check, rainbows and those type of things, what color is the athlete when they're on the wall in a rest? When you take that into Dryland, that's probably the worst thing you can do. And so it's actually an opposite mindset you need to have in Dryland. One of the things we talk about in the certification is clean training in Dryland. Because if you're not doing clean training in Dryland, you're just having more byproducts produced and no real results. And that actually gunks up when the swimmer goes into the water and they're not able to do this test set. They're not able to perform at the meet. And so now you're actually making it worse by what you're doing on Dryland. So I think it's that understanding too, that you need a different mindset on Dryland, but because of that, they're going to be better in the water through that.
I find a funny thing with experts, and it's and everybody does it, and it's not something that we always put up for public consumption. But when someone is really, they have high level knowledge, masterclass teaching abilities, they watch athletes or anyone in any particular area of life. They watch, and in their brain, within a blink, like the Malcolm Gladwell book called Blink, you should read it. You're making calculations, and you're going, this athlete is here, or this person is here, but they can go here, and they haven't figured that out yet. Do you do that? Do you do that all the time when you see athletes training, when you see them competing? Because you were a swim coach too. It's does that happen in your brain?
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's almost to the point of when, especially like in the assessment process, the first session or two, I'm with an athlete. And again, this is remote or in person. I can do this just doing it long enough is I know approximately how long it's going to take to get the athlete from, let's say, 0 to 1 pull-ups, or we need to improve their core strength, in this area because they didn't do so well in the core test that we give them. And I almost find that it's really more of them trusting me and understanding that I have the plan. Because I already could tell you, I could write it down on a pad of paper and put it away in a drawer and say, it's going to take us 5 weeks to get here. And then by week 3 or 4, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm almost here. And so it's more that process of the trust and them just seeing that, oh, what we're doing is translating. Because I don't want to make anybody Olympic weightlifter. That's not my thing. I want faster swimming. And that's what everybody is afraid of. They don't want to just get big and bulky. They want to see the improvement. I think that's where the trust factor comes in and knowing, okay, I see where this is leading me. And sometimes it's different than what they picture, right? And that's why I talk about the opposite mindset you need sometimes for better dryland training. You can't just take the swim mindset and put it on land and think it's going to work.
Share with us a little bit about your background in terms of just because you've worked with elites. You got into it a little bit saying, I was working with master swimmers, and master swimmers are fantastic.
They are my heroes.
Master swimmers are we should say this. If SwimSwam reports on master swimming, if we report national results, U.S. nationals results for masters, it does okay traffic. But if we provide education, the audience loads on, that masters community loads on at a much, much higher level. They are always about education, efficiency, time management, getting better, doing exactly what they need to do. So that's cool. But I appreciate where your head is, but you have experience with elites as well. And can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the first couple swimming jobs I had was when I was still in college. I took whatever summer league job I could find, high school, club, and really through there, I would learn something in class that day, like new dynamic exercises would come out. And all right, my high schoolers are doing that on deck. They're like, all right, what did Chris learn today that we're going to be the guinea pigs for? And it was from there that I was able to start to figure some stuff out. And then through some connections was able to be in Charlotte when David first started the first version of Team Elite and be able to do the strength training for that group of swimmers, leading them into Beijing, and the 2 U.S. athletes there, Cullen on that most famous relay there, and then Mark Gangloff. And that was like warp speed. I feel like I got a master's degree in applied dryland there, because especially like Mark, I've no doubt he's going to be an amazing coach, because even as an athlete, he was pushing me to figure out what's the best way we need to do this type of training, right? Because he had success. They'd had Auburn, PK there, great strength program. And so he knew what he needed to perform at a level. And he challenged me on a regular basis. Okay, is this the best we can do? Is this the best way to approach it? And Cullen, the same thing. We had certain issues we had to work around to make sure, like, again, it has to be results in the water. It doesn't matter if we're just sweating a lot and getting tired. And so I feel like that experience was just a hyper speed in terms of developing the principles that work for swimmers, but using principles from strength and conditioning. And how do we apply it specifically to swimming?
Chris, when with the first name, David, it's David Marsh,
Yeah.
team lead. Just so David Marsh. And so, and I know you through David because David coached me, and in 6 weeks changed my stroke. And
which you were happy to do at the start.
and I hated it. I did. I hated him for it. Here's the thing. The interesting thing about working with elites is this. I feel like there's all sorts of different gears that you have working with elites, but when you do, one of those could be resistance. And he did get inside my head, and I had to trust him quickly because the window was short.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And then once you're in, you're all over them, and it is a high level. It is like quantum entanglement, and elites drive you so fast. But you're a young man, and you touch down in the middle of this atmosphere, and suddenly you're working with the best athletes on earth, and with one of the most innovative coaches in swimming history. He's got a lot of haters out there, but man, the people who know the Marsh Magic know the Marsh Magic. I wouldn't be an Olympic champion if I hadn't met that guy. So
Mm-hmm.
so you touch down, and suddenly you're in this atmosphere dealing. You're working with elites, and you're making quick gains. How did that influence lead you to launching your business?
Yeah, so after Beijing, Team Elite, there were a lot less people, and this, the year after the Olympics, people are going on their victory tours and soaking up all they can from their Olympic success, which is awesome. So honestly, there wasn't a lot. And so I switched focus to helping the club. And at the time, MAC was almost 800 kids, different sites. And so I was going around to different locations all while the time I'm running a senior group. And I basically developed the Dryland curriculum for the whole club to use. And so this isn't the first time I guess I've made a certification, so to speak. It was just, back then it was, all right, a little bit more jumbled YouTube videos and some more PDFs that we were emailing around. And so now I feel like with the technology, we've been able to put it now in the palm of your hand. And at 20 plus hours, you're going to have so much knowledge of the Dryland. But I thought that was really helpful to go see the different, all right, this program, they only have this equipment in this space. And then this one has all this space, and this has the gym. So the variety that club coaches have to deal with, I think I can appreciate really well. I remember having to run an elite workout in the parking lot because of just the circumstances. And so being able to be adaptable, but still understand what is going to make us better on land, actually in the water, translate.
What I find fascinating about you, knowing you for so long and seeing your success, is that it feels like every moment, especially when people who evolve and improve, every moment comes to where you're standing right now. And everything that you've done seems like it doesn't seem like it is. Your surge strength and Dryland certification is the crystallization of it all. And it's, why do I need to have a certification? I understand it. I get it, because I always want to improve. And I like experts, and I like education, but I'm a coach out there. I got a team of 150 swimmers, and why do I need to get certified?
I think one of the things that's unique about me is having been in the strength and conditioning world for so long as a personal trainer, collegiate strength coach, I saw the professionalization in a different field than swimming. And I feel like swimming is still behind in that sense of there are some amazing world-class swim coaches out there, right? But I mean, we have a few organizations that recognize them there, but there isn't even a real structured learning of what to go through. And I think that's the first thing we wanted to help with is, yes, again, you can go to YouTube videos, you can listen to the Surge Strength podcast, you can listen to all these things, but you have to be responsible to piece it all together and see how it fits. Whereas, all right, I'm going to go through this 20-hour course here, and if I don't want to bite off that much, I can just sign up for free for the Dryland 101s. And then also, too, by becoming certified, one of the things I saw in the first few weeks of the shutdown was honestly people were really worried about the liability aspect of it. And we've basically built the certification to that now, if this is the only certification you have, doesn't matter if you have a degree or not, this is the only certification you get is the Surge Strength Dryland certification. We're going to connect you with insurance companies that you can get professional liability insurance, the same that I got to cover me for over a decade when I was a strength coach, personal trainer. And you saw some of the LSCs take out big chunks of change to make sure their coaches were covered. And I feel like this is even going to be a more economical value to both make sure everyone's protected, but then also teach them the right stuff. So you don't even have to worry about that.
If I'm one of these coaches and I'm listening to this now, it's like where should they start? Should they start with the Surge Strength program, or should they get the Surge Strength Dryland credentials? What's the entry point?
So we built a whole new website for this, surge-strength.com. And from there, you can connect to the podcast that we run on a weekly basis, Surge Strength, and then our Instagram. We're really active on that. And then also the first step, if you actually want to see some of the content, is you can enroll for free in the Surge Strength Academy. And that's where the Dryland 101 courses are. And those are pulled directly from the certification. So you can try it before you buy it, so to speak. And right now, there's 101 classes on core training, how to write Dryland workouts, the best upper and lower body exercises. And so you can take those for free right now, just enroll in the academy. And then if you want to take that next step, then you enroll in the certification. And we built it so that coaches can snack on it, if you will. So every video lesson is about 5 to 15 minutes. I don't want it to be overwhelming at all. And on the other end, there's tons of examples. There's a whole season plan template for a college coach, a high school coach, age group coach. How do you do Dryland? It's already given to you in examples. So it's not just the information, but also here's templates that you can actually take and use. And I think it's going to be really valuable.
Coaches out there are there. I've had all sorts of different reactions from coaches, because if there's anything that's happened during this time, it's not just me calling you and me calling David Marsh. It's I've talked to coaches with small teams, with huge teams, and the emotional range is everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's if somebody's resistant to taking this opportunity to do this, it's like, what would you say to them about taking the plunge? It's like if they're on the fence, what's your message to them?
I think that I've had the opportunity to work with a ton of great coaches, even just interview world-class coaches. And if there's a common thread between all of them, they're always trying to learn, they're always questioning, they're always trying to get better. And so if you're doing that in the pool, why wouldn't you do it on land? The first question. And if you are doing it on land, wouldn't you want some of the best examples, some of the easiest things to go through and say, okay, like there's a ratio check that we give you when you're writing every single workout. We have a little checklist that just makes sure, are you covering X, Y, and Z? And if you're not, you need to change that real fast, because just those 3 things can drastically change the effectiveness of your Dryland program. So having something as simple as that, I don't know any coach that is invested in getting their swimmers better and improving their knowledge that wouldn't want to do that. And especially, again, half of the stuff that I listed off is for free. Just go into the 101s and we give a lot of it away for free there.
You know what's interesting? Do you have swim parents that do this?
Oh, yeah. And getting back to the master swimmers too, Mel, one of the reasons I love them is they're self-coached so often. And so when I put the certification, I felt like there's 2 camps majorly I'm talking to. Swim coaches and self-coached master swimmers, even parents, that they know swimming, but they don't know strength and conditioning. So I need to talk to them. But then the other end of it too is if you're a personal trainer, if you're a physical therapist, if you're a strength and conditioning coach, you need CEUs every year. And you'll get your CEUs by taking this certification, but you're going to learn about swimming as you go through it. And so they may not pick up a lot of the periodization stuff because they're probably already at that level, but the swim coaches are going to learn periodization. And just the same way the swim coaches aren't going to learn anything new about swimming that I talk about. But if you have a physical therapist and you're a coach and you're referring your kids out, have them take it, because they're going to understand more. Oh, okay, I see a little bit more of this world, and they're probably going to have better results as well.
So often we do. I mean, my entire life, my strength training coach was never someone with a swimming background. They weren't.
Yeah.
Just didn't have it. So to really take their knowledge base, if you're a physical therapist or if you're a strength training coach, and suddenly you've got this responsibility and you're motivated. It's like to get swimified, to put it through the proper lens, the Surge Strength Dryland certification seems like the go-to. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing about this is that I did not have that moment, that aha moment, until we were talking when swimmers started returning to the pool and started having personal best times and breaking NAG records, and we're reporting people who are getting their junior cuts. And you're like, no, it doesn't surprise me. The funny thing is, I knew this already. We see this in this one band of swimming. We see kids go from clubs to college, and suddenly they make this huge gain. And when you point back to what happened to you in college, suddenly you're in an academic setting
Mm-hmm.
where you're getting strength training, but it's not people who have a swim background, but you're getting swim training for predominantly for the most of the market. And that dryland training is the defining thing that makes you faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, right. The other moment was with our friend David Marsh. His daughter was 13 years old. She went 103 100-meter butterfly.
Yeah.
And I call up our buddy, Coach Marsh, the Magic Man. I'm like, buddy, is she going to go to the Olympics? And he's like, no, Mel, that's not. She likes to be on a team. That's not what she's thinking about. She likes going fast. She only swims 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
I remember going to the gymnastics classes she went with him, because that's the kind of stuff we would put into the Dryland, because he would see that. He was one of the early coaches about understanding if you make better athletes, they end up being better swimmers. And so, yeah, I wasn't surprised either seeing her accomplishments, collegiately, and knowing, I was on deck and knew how often she swam and when she even started to swim at any regular basis. And it points back to, if you can get swimmers a strong core, moving well, and just general strength overall, of course they're going to do well, and I'll even take it one step further of, like, in any other sport, if you see an athlete get injured seriously and they're out for 6, 9, 12 months, and if they take that time seriously, a lot of it is basically them getting their body in the best shape ever in terms of strength and conditioning, mobility. And then when they come back, everybody's like, whoa, how's this happen? Like Klay Thompson, for example, tore his ACL. He's going to come back. I would not be surprised if he has the season of his life, because he's basically had a year off to just do strength and conditioning. So again, we go back to the past 5 months. Have you used that to get yourself better, or just sit around waiting for when your pool is going to open?
The funny thing is that we always talk about the fifth stroke underwater kick and a fly. It transforms swimming. And then we have all these examples of people who have broken an arm or blown out a shoulder, and then they kick for an entire season, and then they end up doing best times.
Mm-hmm.
In kicking, if you don't understand that your kick is driven by all that athletic engine of your core strength, then you need to be enlightened. Here's the thing: I have a feeling that I would never want to participate in any sort of core training that you're ever seeing. I have a feeling it would be pretty tough.
I'll stop you there. I know you're halfway joking, but the other thing is, we teach you how to scale it to where you're at. And so we've had success training master swimmers in their 80s remotely who have never done strength training before. I've never met them. We have programs that we can do online with them, and we have them right now that are having success. And the same way, we have kids 12, 13, 14, 15 that, again, never met, having great success. So that's the other thing. It's not all or nothing. It's learning how to scale whatever you're doing and figuring out the intensity, the technique, and all that stuff.
We're down to 5 minutes, and this. I have to be a bit of a nerd. So, people who launch companies have great pride in their expertise and their success, which you have. What is the impact that you want to have on the sport? Because you're a decade in, and now you're certifying, which is high level education. What is your hope in terms of transforming Team USA? Because it all flows in from the base.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to, Mel, when I was still at Mac, I remember you go around and you can look at other team sites and the bios of the coaches there. And at that point, I'm one of maybe a handful of any that either have a certification in Dryland or even a Dryland coach. And now you see, and I'm happy for this, how many teams actually have just specifically Dryland coaches and actually on staff. And the other thing I think about is during that time, I was able to work with a small group of senior athletes. and they were not having the best season. They were seniors, juniors. We were trying to have them have some good times for college. And all we did was strength training with them, with me, small group, 5:15 a.m. in the room named after you, 3 days a week. And we did this for 6 weeks. That's all. Lifetime best times from the 50, 100, 200, 500 out of that group. And it changed the trajectory that they were able to do into college. And I feel like if we can just bottle up some of that and give some of that knowledge, then, we're going to make a lot of change there.
You don't have to answer this question. Some people don't like these questions, but it's how much is US based and how much is international? People flowing onto your platform.
So when we did the first beta launch a few weeks ago for the certification, we have about 100 coaches right now going through the certification. And the last time I checked, it was 17 different countries were represented out of that. I feel like that's pretty impressive. We've been working with a team out of Singapore for a year and a half now, and they're having amazing results. So yeah, I think that's the other thing too, is sometimes the more non-domestic coaches, they're more eager for this kind of knowledge because they don't have anything.
That's my point. That was my point. It seems like we were innovators for a very long time, and it seems like we go through periods where people don't innovate. And it's typically because there's a lot of leadership that doesn't value the innovation, and they need to dive deep on this and get into it. But we haven't had a tool that, a course and a certification that could be like, okay, we can measure where you're at and your knowledge base is, that you can apply it to your teams, and they have it now.
Yeah. No. So go to surge-strength.com. And Mel, I wanted to do something special for your audience too. So they get $50 off if they enroll in the Surge Strength Dryland certification and just use the code SwimSwam. So again, if you want to just do the Dryland 101 courses, check out the academy there. It's all at surge-strength.com. Or you want $50 off the certification, use the coupon code SwimSwam.
Always SwimSwam. We're down to under a minute. So if I do this course, how ripped would I get?
Depends what you actually do, Mel. There's a difference between learning and absorbing versus you actually putting it.
You're telling me that I'm not going to get ripped. I'm old. I'm getting soft around the middle. I just want to know, will I get the 8-pack back?
Yes, Mel. And we might even be able to sneak out a new lifetime best from you too.
That's what I've
seen it for master swimmers.
When we have specific questions about Dryland, we'll come back to you, buddy. But I really appreciate you coming on. And will you come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay. We're going to make that happen.
And then the next time we come back, we'll ask the same question. If you use this moment to actually start getting better on Dryland, or if you're still waiting around by the next time we do this podcast. I don't like you anymore. That makes me mad. Thank you so much. Chris Ritter Sports Performance. Go there, check it out. RitterSP.com.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.